But I think, above all else, we're expecting this defense to take the next step from feisty last year. I think they had like the second best QBR allowed as an opposing defense over the second half of last year, a feisty group to a dominant group. I mean, you talk about Dalvin Tomlinson, Calais Campbell, Josh Sweat in free agency, and you couple that now with Walter Nolan, Will Johnson, Jordan Burch, your first three picks of the 2025 NFL draft. This is a unit that's been underserved and now has a chance to be the real strength of this team. Is the rebuild with the Arizona Cardinals officially over? Johnny Venerable Bulbrock, PHNX Cardinals, and after 3 off seasons of acquisitions, trades, and draft picks, Bulbrock, can Monti Ossenfort and Jonathan Gannon finally say, we're ready to win?
I think it's time to call a priest and officially name this rebuild dead. It's over because Monti Ossenfort, what he's been able to do, how he's been able to rebuild this roster, it's finally prime, Johnny, I think, this season to contend. Not just be, ahead of schedule or a team that can be feisty, win some games, and sneak into a playoff. I think that this is legitimately a team that is rebuilt and ready to make some noise in 2025.
Yeah, this is the most complete roster, certainly on paper, since 2021, and the best homegrown roster since that team circa 2013 through 2015 with Bruce Arians and when Steve Keim, was able to put together a couple quality off seasons. It's the best on paper. Now, a lot of it's going to be predicated on kind of quarterback play they get from Kyler Murray, continuity with Drew Petzing. But I think, above all else, we're expecting this defense to take the next step from feisty last year. I think they had like the second best QBR allowed as an opposing defense over the second half of last year, a feisty group to a dominant group. I mean, you talk about Dalvin Tomlinson, Calais Campbell, Josh Sweat in free agency, and you couple that now with Walter Nolan, Will Johnson, Jordan Burch, your first three picks of the 2025 NFL draft. This is a unit that's been underserved and now has a chance to be the real strength of this team, something that you and I had been clamoring on for the better part of this offseason. And I truly think that was the missing key for this rebuild.
Yeah, and that was, I think, really what has catapulted this team from fringe playoff team to should firmly be in the conversation. That the roster on paper is where it needs to be going into a regular season because of what they did as far as revamping this defense. Because you saw it. I mean, you did see the points per allowed last season, which was like right in the middle of the NFL last year. I think about anywhere from 13th to 15th. I can't remember as far as Nick Rollis. I'm sorry for not nailing that down, but it was right in the middle. And they were a bend, don't break defense. They were a team that didn't give up a ton of points, but they were also a defense that couldn't get off the field. And I think that was a personnel issue, and you knew exactly where they needed to upgrade. When you looked at kind of the analytics, when you saw the pass rush win rate and the lack of pressure, despite them having 41 sacks, which is fine, they just weren't getting enough pressure. What do they do this offseason? They add guys like you mentioned, Tomlinson, Calais Campbell, Walter Nolan, Josh Sweat, who the quartet brings in over 160 total pressures, which nearly matched the entire defense's pressures last season. They checked that box, and I think it was a monumental box to check. So it's like, okay, defense can be way better. They can get off the field. They could probably create some turnovers, and then you get into the conversation about the offense. Can Kyler Murray take that step necessary to not make us look foolish in calling the rebuild over? But look, this offense, I think, is in a place where they feel comfortable and think that they are fully capable of getting the job done.
You and I have talked about it recently on the PHNX Cardinals, where Kyler Murray, we expect him to be great this year. We expect him to take yet another step under Drew Petzing and Jonathan Gannon, but he can be a game manager for the first time in his career. And I'm sure when we chatted with him earlier this spring, like that's not on his mind, right? He wants to take over games, be the best player on the field. But there might be some Sundays where this roster, the way it's built, they don't need that from him. Hey, go out and win a game 17-13. Go out and win a game 14-10. We have the infrastructure to play ball control with defense and turnovers for the first time, probably in Kyler Murray's career. For all of his critics out there, and I know there are a lot here locally, which is unfortunate, Kyler Murray has been asked, for the most part, to carry this team in order for it to get to the postseason. Hell, an NFC championship game. Like, to do any of that, he has never had the infrastructure of somebody like Brock Purdy in the past, right? Somebody like, Jalen Hurts early in his career. he has always been asked to put on that Superman cape and be the guy. And
Yeah.
while I think his play is going to be improved by default, same with Marvin Harrison Jr., Michael Wilson, I just think that he is going to be coached with the idea that you can take some chances, but don't forget, we have an opportunistic defense on paper that I expect, Bo. I mean, I think you and I both expect it to be top 10. I think there's going to be times this year it could even flirt with top 5.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a defense that could take over potentially in a couple, contests throughout their 2025 slate. But as far as Kyler goes, like, you can think of the moments like Drew Petzing, Jonathan Gannon, they wanted to create an offensive infrastructure that did not put Kyler Murray in the situation that he was previous to that under Cliff Kingsbury, where he had to continuously, he never took off the Superman outfit. He was never dressed as Clark Kent, game manager. Instead, he had to come out of the phone booth over and over every offensive series, where that shouldn't exist. But I still think that there's a bit of it still in there with Kyler, where I think with this defense, especially on like third and manageable, third and long, there are some plays underneath that Kyler Murray could benefit him and the offense and the Cardinals overall by taking those instead of feeling the pressure of like, hey, I have to go out there and win this game on this play. That doesn't have to exist any longer. But that doesn't remove him trying to be aggressive and drive the ball downfield, where I think that should probably happen earlier down situations for Kyler Murray, and not necessarily saying, hey, you have to make superhuman plays in order for this thing to even work.
Do you believe the rebuild is over for the Arizona Cardinals? What would a successful season look like to you? Do they need to win the NFC West? Do they need to eclipse 10 wins? Let us know in the comments. Subscribe to PHNX Sports, and of course, here on YouTube. For Bo, I'm Johnny. We'll see you next time.